Buongiorno a tutti, inizia la nostra live di oggi. Ecco, mi sistemo ancora un po' meglio il microfono. Ricordo a tutti che questa è la rubrica Hai mai usato, rubrica di innovazione e di utilizzo dell'intelligenza artificiale nelle applicazioni di business, ma perché no, anche nella vita quotidiana. Oggi con noi Tom Allen, che non è ancora arrivato, ha avuto qualche difficoltà, mi ha scritto un messaggio pochi minuti fa, ci raggiungerà, speriamo che riesca a connettersi, ma nel frattempo ovviamente il tempo non andrà sprecato. Per prima cosa vi chiederei se riuscite a mandare un messaggio a dirmi se mi vedete correttamente, così mi assicuro che non ci siano problemi di linea anche dalla mia parte. Ecco, è arrivato anche Tom.
Hello.
Hi Tom. Hello,
Esther, how are you doing today?
Fine, thanks. What about you?
I'm okay, thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you for letting me come on the stage, and great to be here with you.
Thanks for accepting the invitation on your side. I just started to introduce what the Hai mai usato is. That is a place where we discuss innovation, where we discuss artificial intelligence applications on the business point of view. That's also why you are here today. You are an expert as regards educating people, educating business in the usage of artificial intelligence. But I stop myself now. I start with the very first traditional question, that is present yourself, tell us about you, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Esther. So I'm Tom Allen. I'm the founder of AI Journal, and we're an open source publication that aims to educate everyone around the world on topics of AI and emerging technology. So it's been a really exciting couple of years since we've been going, and really excited to share this conversation with you today.
That's perfect. Thank you for your introduction. You are the editor-in-chief of the AI Journal. Let's discuss a little bit about this publication. No, yeah. What's the idea behind why you started this adventure online?
Yeah. So it's a really great question, and it's something I look back on how we got to where we are today and what we're doing today, Esther. So really came from a place of wanting to understand what AI is, because I was working in manufacturing and I was working for an engineering company, which worked with manufacturing companies, and we dealt a lot with robotics and a lot with machine vision and all those kind of capabilities. And it naturally led me to wonder what AI is, Esther. So I thought, where can I find out best about these topics and about these areas of interest to people? And I saw that it was a growing area and a big topic that was going into almost any industry. So really, out of selfishness, I came up with the idea to start the publication. And through having it open source, through people that give their very kind time, and that it's open to nearly anyone as long as it's a topic around emerging tech, to come and share that information with our audience, with our community that we've built. And yeah, it's been a very exciting time, and I really want to impact it through education, because that's the most important thing to me, and that's really where my passion lies. I'm fully honest with people and transparent. I'm not a tech person. I don't understand how to code things or how to do things. I mean, I have a very top level view of it, but my view is, if you don't know about something, of course, you're going to be scared about it. And of course, you're going to be a bit slightly worried, or it's not going to be something that you fully understand. And our role as the publication, as the AI Journal, and to our customers, is to help them with that gateway and fully understand the market they're in, and the way that AI is impacting our lives. And not just AI, but cloud, IoT, smart cities, any topic that we discover, workflow management. So a real key area for me is to educate that audience, and encourage everyone listening to come and join. And it's completely free to see what we're doing.
That's a great approach, that when one is not completely aware of what's happening, or what's the topic, or a new technology that is coming, the really good approach is starting understanding it, and so learning and taking the good information. So really appreciate all that publication that spreads the words about artificial intelligence, because as you said, it's not easy to understand that not everything is about the coding side, the algorithmic point of view, because yes, that is part of the game, obviously. Nothing works without, but also nothing works without people and without objectives, goals that are the very needs behind the usage of technology. Technology is just a tool, so it needs to understand how to use it, where is your needs to start and use it successfully. So thank you for this point of view. And you mentioned that you come from the manufacturing industry, and obviously is one of the most misunderstanding place where to approach AI, because everyone thinks robotics, dystopia, bring it by the movies, no?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting area, and it's like any industry that's using AI or cloud or IoT or any of these technologies available to us in vast amounts at the moment, with new companies coming up with slightly different ways of doing however they implement the technology. But I mean, it was one of those areas where once you're behind the scenes, Esther, you really understand how important like supply chain is and logistics, and how we would be in a very difficult situation without these technologies being applied. Like I always say, imagine if you took Amazon next day delivery away. As soon as you've got something, you expect it. And the only way that they do that, and companies do that, and not just Amazon, just using that as an example, for if you took some kind of capability away or some sort of service away, a large majority of that is possible due to the data they're using and due to the AI they're probably applying and due to the robotics lifting very heavy payloads in the manufacturing plants to get items out, and using automation sequences to return your item into the returns section, or put it into the sending section, or locate it to your local depot from the big regional depot. So I mean, it's a real integrated process, and it really opened my eyes up to thinking how not just the software works, but how the hardware works, and how you can see it in person, the implications of whether it's getting not just in manufacturing, so getting a parcel there to someone, but getting healthcare to someone quickly, and being able to get them to see a doctor quickly, and using technologies like RPA, which is a company that Alpha Lake does very well within the NHS, and uses intelligent automation systems to be able to do those things. And once you can see how it's impacting the person, whether it's allowing a child to learn quicker through a technology like VR because it's more immersive, or whether it's through a financial company being able to offer you better rates for your next credit card because it understands your spending habits. Like, they are very, it's not just this word AI, it's very integrated into what you do on a day-to-day basis, which is why it's going everywhere at the moment, Esther, and why a lot of people are riding the wave of this new era. So it's a very exciting time. I think it was it Satya Nadella or someone along those lines that said the AI is going to be bigger than fire, wind, and water, or something. It was something similar to that. It was, and it just shows you how big it's going to be. I think it was Satya Nadella, or maybe it's it was one of them from Microsoft or Google, someone, maybe Sundar Pichai. But yeah, it was a great quote, and it really opened my eyes to say where this technology is going.
Wow, really, really cool. And about the audience of the AI journal, for example, what kind of people approach the learning? What kind of people try to understand what AI is?
Yeah, so we have a real mix of people. So we have a real wide audience. I mean, our main audience is C-suite, so that's who we predominantly serve, and that's where our main audience is. But we really have people from all backgrounds, and we're all inclusive to anyone from all walks of life, from around the world, whatever culture, whatever background, whatever it might be, whatever story you have to tell. We want to hear it. And I mean, that's where we really open up the doors. So we have students come through. We have the C-suite from very well-known companies, the C-suite from companies that aren't known but have very big impact that you don't always hear about. So a real broad range, from the data scientists and data engineers right up to the CEOs, CTOs, and all in between as well. So the SMEs or the startups are trying to find their feet. So a real broad range, and they really are interested in understanding. As most people know, if you're a smart person, you realize that you don't know everything, and that's what we really try to aim to do. by encouraging new talking points. So even if you disagree with a topic, you'll agree maybe with the following topic, but you can have, it's not a place to come to be right or wrong. It's a place to discuss and a place to understand. And I think that's where we really capture the C-suite audience, but also it's we have people from across the world come in, every country you can imagine, I think. So it's a real awesome inclusive community and a great way to learn next to amazing people that can help you with your journey around AI and emerging technologies, whatever it is you want to learn.
Yes, as a matter of fact, for example, I am one of your contributors. I'm so proud to be. And so I invite whoever want to make the same and contribute to the AI journal with his own AI journey to contact Tom. He's very available. And as he said, it's an open community. Everyone can contribute successfully because everyone has a different experience to bring on the desk. And it must be considered that, as we said, AI can have a huge field of applications. So it needs to have a different point of view, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the best point. I mean, we're in a very unknown area at the moment, and I think people that look at it as just understanding it or being a pro in that area, there's still a lot to learn, Esther. So there really is. It's a book that has a lot of pages to turn, or it's a library that has a lot of books that aren't read yet. And I think it's going to be an area that just keeps growing and keeps proving us wrong. And we might get some things right with AI and cloud and emerging technologies. But I mean, through the power of, I look at compounding, it's the same thing whether you look at it from a financial basis or a workload basis, or whatever you want to apply it to. It's the exact same with this area of learning. I mean, what we uncover, who would have thought Elon Musk would be able to send rockets up to space like at such a steady pace? He makes it look easy now. And to be able to get Starlink to Ukraine with the crisis happening over there and all these other technologies that are coming into play. I mean, I always say, why do people instantly dismiss the idea of space travel? Because I don't dismiss it. All you need is that one technology shift and you might unlock the power to do, I don't know, supersonic flying or whatever it'd be called, like into space travel. So I really don't think, we don't know how far away we are from that next breakthrough. And I think AI is getting us to those breakthroughs a lot quicker and making us understand. And it's subsets like machine learning, deep learning, to be able to understand those data sets, to understand those focus points, to really get us there. So I honestly say that people that are very quick to make conclusions or criticisms or saying that this technology is not going to do this or we're not going to be able to do this by this time, I think, how do you know that? You don't know. And the thing is that with these new technologies, a lot is proving us very wrong. Look at predictions before pandemic. Sales are going to be X, people are going to be this, we're going to expand, we're going to do this, we're going to do X, Y, Z. You got all these amazing predictions. Pandemic hits, what do you have to do? Change your mindset. All those predictions don't mean much anymore. And it's the exact same.
Everything.
Yeah, it's the exact same. So I encourage people not to have this mindset of thinking, I know what's right, I know what we're going to be doing, because you can use Windows 95. Arguably, to me and other people might disagree, one of the biggest software breakthroughs. It's what unlocked home computing. It's what unlocked what we use so fundamentally today, Excel and Word, all these different criteria. And they released it and everything changed for home computing. And without that, we wouldn't be able to do the digital workforce that we're doing today, working remote around the world. And I just think we're in a time at the moment where the pandemic has really taught us how we're going to make that shift, and we're making the shift a lot quicker now. So, I mean, as horrible as it was, and if I could turn back time to stop it happening, I would. But from what the silver linings are and what the learnings are, I think we're going to, as a country and as a world, and not to get too far speaking, but as a business and as a community, it is going to make us learn and move us a lot quicker. From challenges become the best lessons. So I encourage people not to have that mindset, and that's where we, as AI Journal, try to encourage people to have different views and different stances.
Yes, be curious should be the sentence to encourage people to be curious, as a matter of fact. A couple of days ago, I was discussing with a couple of friends about the future perspective in some movies from the 80s. For example, I think you remember Back to the Future, the movie. No, yes. And a lot of technologies and things that could be considered considered futuristic or impossible at the time now are our everyday life. So the same could be if we are now going to look at something that is prospective to the future. Don't think is not possible to realize, think how is possible to realize it. No,
That's an important point, Esther. It really is. Yeah.
Yes, this could be a right perspective. And have you never or ever dared an innovative process and applied this to something that you are doing? And what happened? What you learned?
Tools in terms of technologies, or
Yes, for example, in terms of technology, yourself, have you ever used something related to artificial intelligence, more related to your business, not on the point of view of everyday life, and learned something?
Yeah, so it's a question I got asked the other week as well, and we actually don't use any AI in our company or any kind of technologies at the moment. I mean, we have APIs and we use platforms to do mailers and to do very simple things, but at the moment we don't actually use any form of RPA or AI or any guys kind of technologies, but we definitely will, and I definitely plan to make things smoother and to automate processes that we don't want to do, because I'm very grateful for it. I get the great view that I get to go into companies and see what they're applying because they want to tell me about it. And whether it's under disclosure or whether it's under NDA or whatever I can or can't discuss, I always love to see how they're thinking about it and how one technology can be applied in so many different ways to meet a business outcome and a business goal. And that's when I look at it. And I've got my notes here and it's part of our plan and future thinking and goals and everything. It will tie into making sure we can meet those goals and making sure we can hit those targets and those KPIs, Esther. But to look at it from a business point of view, it really amazes me to think how one company can think about RPA, or they can think about using NLP, natural language processing, and they can think around all these different areas to get to different business outcomes. Same technology, various different ways of doing and implementing and making sure that the team understand it. And it's not just implementing the technology and job done. I mean, a lot of consultancies come in and help you with that because they understand that it really isn't just a technology. It's the workflow behind it. It's the people behind it. And you can have a great business. But at the moment, I don't know any business that sells to another business without a human in the loop. I don't know a robot that goes and sells to another robot as two independent businesses. It's usually a people transaction. And I think that's what it will always be. I could be wrong. Maybe there will be robot companies that, and you see the conversations at the moment, Esther, should we put tax on a robot because they can work 24/7 and they can increase compared to a human who needs sleep, will make mistakes and isn't programmed to do repetitive tasks. And from that, I'm digressing from the point, but from that point, I'm thinking, looking at a business, and this is what I do as well, my suggestion would be to the people watching, Esther, either live with us now or recording, or any businesses, and I say this on every show, to really think, it's an obvious point, think about what it is you want as a business outcome. If you're the business owner, what is it you really want to do? You know, it shouldn't always be profit driven. It shouldn't always be cost saving driven. If you can make your team a happier team through using automation sequences and implementing RPA, and I know I keep using that as an example, but automating your sequences, you are going to have a lot better business if you focus on the people and make them happier and make them better and make them more trained up and more skilled, because they're going to be able to do more with their time. And it's the classic analogy. They said, I think you might have heard it as well, Esther. It was, who was it? The famous painter that was sat in the streets of Paris. And they walk up to him and they say, can you, Picasso? They walk up to him. They're like, can you draw us a picture? And he's like, sure, takes a napkin, does a picture in 10 seconds or a minute or whatever it takes. And he's like, that'll be £5,000, whatever the figure was. And they're like, whoa, that's a lot of money. And they turn around and they go, but you only took 5 minutes to do it. And they're like, but that skill I've acquired over decades of hard work and graft. And it's the same thing, or a more recent one that I heard in manufacturing. You hire a person to come and you can't get a sequence to work. So you hire this very specialist engineer. He comes along and he can fix the problem in 5 minutes. And he knows exactly where that one little bolt is that's messed up the whole sequence. That might be costing the company millions of pounds in revenue. And he charges £50,000. But they say, only took you 5 minutes of work. And he goes, but I know where to find the bolt. And it's the exact same thing when you think about these technologies to look at it from that angle. Can you speed up the people, and can you make them a better person, and can you make them more upskilled? Because ultimately that'll have the forward thinking, everlasting processes on your business to do more than just saying as a press release, saved 630% in cost savings, which is great. You should be aiming for that, but it should become a secondment to putting the people first and really putting the transformations first. So obviously you might be able to tell it's quite passion for me, Esther, but it's an area that people miss, and it's just they jump to the shiny new object without actually considering what the costs are in training, helping the people, bringing in these new technologies or new systems, or whether it's something to do with cybersecurity or cloud or whatever it might be, to really put the people first. And that's what I always encourage, and I always champion to put them first.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Also, because if you start later, you are going to catch the benefits later. Because, as you said, it's something that needs to be acquired and learned inside the company and on the go into the process. Because everything is it needs to change the mindset, even inside the industry, inside the business unit. Because even if you decide that as objective, as a goal, as your KPIs are improving the way in which you welcome your customers or satisfy your customers' requests, the people behind that requires a lot of training and coaching and operational activities, and you need to understand where you need to implement the AI technology to start and improve one piece of the whole process, and then again and again until you can make the efficiency in the whole chain. But it takes time. It's not something that you can do the day after you decide to start. So it needs to have the view to understand that it needs to start as soon as possible, understanding where can be successful. And what push, if we say pushing people, what kind of push do you think the fields, the business needs to innovate and try to start something with AI? Where is the difficult in this side?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to, and when I get asked this question, I mean, I did a great podcast with a brilliant lady from KPMG, and they've got a real good view of how to do it, and they are very forward thinking in what they do, how they run things, and how they educate their audience, which is a brilliant point, Esther. But I mean, look, you can look at the technology all you want, but if you're not thinking, ultimately, a technology isn't going to bring you results day in, day out if you don't have a proper agenda for it. It's like a meeting. If you turn up to a meeting with no agenda, the best meetings have an agenda, so you know what you're walking into. Like, this cool. We knew what we were going to be talking around, and we knew what we were going to be focusing on. We knew the topics. And I think it's the exact same with a business, and I think it's the exact same with using the technologies to get you there. And I think that is a real push that I would suggest to people. I see, and this is no discouragement to them. They're great companies and they're learning, and I just look at it from as if I'm a user. And I think that's the best way I can always, and it's the view I always try to have. If I was buying this product, am I truly invested in it? Am I truly going to use this automation platform, whether it's a very simple automation that people might be aware of, like MailChimp? MailChimp use emailers. A lot of marketers, a lot of people are very aware of it because you can do automation sequences. When someone signs up to your newsletter, you can send them a welcome email without clicking a button. It just does it automatically. That is automation. It's a very low level basic automation sequence. But when you look at it as a very top level and you're automating the accounts department for a company that's doing £1 billion in sales, it gets a bit more complicated than just writing a thank you email to bring them in. And I think that's where the push is at the moment, to think, look honestly at the training. The best companies aren't the people that are selling to the C-suite, but thinking around the people that are coming up in the next generations, that are thinking about us, thinking about me. I'm 29, thinking about the 20-year-olds, thinking about the 15-year-olds that are going to be coming through their process, that are really going to make them. So not thinking short-term, but thinking long-term. I mean, look how quickly we moved. It was over 2 years ago, that the pandemic hit and lockdowns were announced. And I think we were locked down by this point in the UK. It was around this time that we were getting locked down. And that 2 years has gone like that. And I think when people look at it, that's where my big push is. And that's where I think people should innovate, is not to get so caught up in today. Obviously, it's important to do that, But I look at it, and that's the point I was going to before digressing. When I look at companies, they send us press releases. We get sometimes hundreds of press releases in a few days. Sometimes, what we get through is very impactful at times, and it really is a very good story. But a lot of the times they're just sales pitches, and it's just thinking, X company has achieved 300% with an RPA technology. That's great. But a lot of these technologies, and maybe this is my arrogant point of view, I don't know, Esther, from what I see every day, but they're not necessarily the only ones in the field or the only ones in the game. They aren't the only competition. They have other competitors that can sell that service. And I think really it goes back to that point, no matter what you're selling, and even if people listening to this or anyone that looks at it from an angle of, okay, well, I'm not selling even technology, it really does come back to that point of innovating and pushing for your customer. And once you have that focus, and it's the focus, there's a great book by two C-suite people at Amazon, and it's a real great book on how to thinking backwards. And it's basically how Amazon think, and their focus, you can tell by reading it and looking at their principles, where it's an open book to how they've achieved success. They do not look at the technologies. They do not look at all these things. They look at the customer. And I think it's real, and I think it is so hard for companies in the AI space, especially with the investment going on and the fundraising going on, to get caught up in the figures and to get caught up in, we need to raise £3 million, and this is why our technology is so great. If I look at a company, the technology and the business and whatever it is can change. If I see a company where their customers love them, where their customers are obsessed with them, where that company, even if they don't become a customer and they say, the price was too high, or not today, or the business wasn't right, that company is going to succeed because they are focused, and they'll find the right technology, they'll find the right vendor to help them get to those goals and to push towards helping a customer or a business or a community, or even if it's a charity, for the local public. And I think that's where I'd love to see the biggest push is the education side, and not to get so caught up in the C-suite. And I don't mean to ramble on, but it is such an important point, Esther, that they get caught up in thinking profits, how's the technology going to change, rather than thinking if we can help the people today, they're going to help us tomorrow, which obviously isn't tomorrow, it's like 10 years away. But that kind of mindset to thinking, how can we educate? How can we inform? If we're seeing, think about where you buy, Esther. Do you buy from someone, or if you had the option, I don't know if you've done this recently, if you had the option, do you buy from someone because they've got an amazing product? Or would you buy from someone because they've taught you a lot, they've educated you, and they've helped you understand the problem, to think that they are the right solution for you, rather than saying our technology does X, Y, Z, compared to the other vendor that says, this is what's your problem, how can we help, this is what you might want to consider. Which one would you use? So I think I'd use
obviously the second one, that one that can understand my needs, can understand my problems. So one of the best point, as you said, is educating the companies to look at their business human-centered and more than feature-centered. Technology is a servant for the people. So business companies that need to satisfy their customers, they can use different kind of technologies that can improve along the time, but people are there to stay. And if they are not there, you are not a company, because obviously without customers you can go ahead with your business. So it's crucial that you are able to understand the needs of your customers and are able to satisfy them where and when they need that. So in our case, for example, we apply NLP's process. So our service is more centered on NLP. We really understand this point because, NLP studies language, and people are made of communication, are made of languages. Relationships are made with languages. So we really see with numbers that is crucial when and successful when the company understand what their customers are looking for, what they need, and even they can prevent problems, crises, because they are able to catch what people are their feelings. So it's really better if a company thinks in this way.
Yeah, very important. It's very important. And that's my biggest encouragement to people, to think, to your great point, Esther, to think around the training rather than thinking around aspects at the technologies. I mean, that will follow and that will meet. Anyone can go well, not anyone, but it's very accessible. It's not a golden locked off book anymore to get an AI or to get a consultant or to do all these things. If you're a company doing reasonable revenue, you're going to be able to afford these solutions. But I think it's pointless if you go spend all that money. And I think UiPath are a good example. Companies go spend all this money on licenses. They don't even need to automate all these things. And you're just thinking, why are you buying all these licenses? Just as a PR statement, it just baffles me. I just think, it's not the way to do things if you haven't got a proper outcome. And obviously, that's not to display them. That's not their fault. But to companies using platforms such as them to really think about how many licenses do we need. And that's why we can, it's a conversation for another day, Esther. But I always look at it from usage-based compared to license-based. Usage-based to me will always outweigh license-based, because you could be a team. You look at, I think they did a publication, there was a survey, and shows how much money Google makes per employee and Facebook makes per employee. It's ridiculous. Like, for the amount of money they're bringing in, to the amount of employees they've got, their quote per person, I think it was upwards of like 1.2 million per person if you accounted like the money that they have coming into every single employee. That just proves to me usage-based will outweigh license-based in the long term. But that is a conversation for another day. But I think it's just so important. That point I only know by educating myself. And that's what I'd leave the audience with on that point, to really push towards the education piece, because that's where you'll find the best results.
So the suggestion for our audience is invest in understanding what technology is and how it's useful for you to serve at best your customers, more than in technology itself, before taking a license and taking a lot of cool technology in your everyday business activities. Understand what is. So invest in people, invest in education and training for those people that today are operating something that tomorrow could be performed by machines. So if you can improve how they are working today, they will be happy to stay inside your company. And we know is one of the topics that is the word of mouth. Everybody know the great resignation. Why? Because people are upset, are tired of being just those that push a button or doing something that is dull. No, it's much better. Let them understand what they are doing and train themselves for something more interesting, and delegate what is just operational to machines.
Yeah, 100% agree.
What do you think about the great resignation?
Yes, it's an interesting topic. I mean, it's something I don't have much thoughts on at the moment, but it's an interesting world to think what's gonna happen. So, yeah.
It's something that is also discussed in the UK.
From time to time, I mean, I haven't heard it that much, to be honest, coming up around it, but it does get a bit of talking points, and it does get mentioned from time to time. But yeah, it's an interesting area.
Yeah, it's a hot topic here in Italy, maybe because compared with the UK, we have experienced in the past a more slow way of change the mindset, as you mentioned, while UK is one of the countries where technology and innovation go fast. Italy is a little bit more traditional, so that's maybe why it's really hype as topic in our countries. But on the educational side, just one of our last question on the educational side, what do you think could be the approach, or what could be, in your opinion, an approach to start and teaching technology approaches and mindset, different change of mindset in the school for educational, starting learn earlier than now?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and it's a great question, because it's something that's very close to my heart, Esther. So, I mean, look, I see VR as being the answer for kids, because I see that as being a very easy way to immerse them in situations. If you immerse yourself in a situation, you learn a lot quicker. I did awful at school. So I tell people I got an EU and E and in A levels, and I was awful. I didn't learn very well because I had the wrong method of learning. And people learn in different ways. But I think the best method, whoever you are, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're looking at doing, VR and immersive situations will get you somewhere a lot quicker than just reading and writing, because you're in there and you memorize it and you remember it and you remember situations. What do you remember? Do you remember a book because it was very poorly written, or do you remember a book because it took you on an adventure, it took you on an experience? You remember the one that took you on an experience. It's like going on holiday. You remember holiday if it was a bad holiday and your flight got delayed and the hotel was wrong and the food was cold and all these different factors that could happen, and you think, oh my God, what a horrible holiday, compared to something where the flight's on time, you get upgraded to first class, you get upgraded in your suite, you have the best beach situation with the you have your best carbo on the beach kind of situation, or what do you call it, like a not carbo, the like best seats and best lounges. You're going to remember that and think, that was a great holiday. It's the exact same with education. Are you going to remember something because they've got a chalkboard and they write, this is what you need to learn as part of the curriculum, blah, 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 blah? Or are you going to remember it and say, this is when the dinosaurs were around, and they put it on a whiteboard? Or if I stick a VR headset on you and you've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex running at you, which one are you going to remember better? You're going to remember the Tyrannosaurus Rex running at you, and you're going to want to understand naturally how this situation works, how this situation unfolds. And I don't know what the situation, I mean, computers were a game changer for helping school kids because they can run programs. And now everything I do is sat in front of a screen, compared to when I was in education. When I was at school, everything I was done was learning, writing. It was no screens, very little technology used. And I think it's going to, I don't know what the situation is in schools at the moment, how often they use screens or laptops or whatever situation. I imagine it's increased significantly since I was at school 15 years ago, or less than 14 years ago. But looking at it from how VR can help you, and I honestly think that is the answer. I mean, there's some great people pioneering this area, so like Kathy Hackle, a great person to follow if you want to understand about VR. Jeremy Dalton, who works at PwC and is doing a great program with his VR and the headsets, and he's always doing new initiatives. And I think it is key that, back to our point earlier, Esther, companies as well, they overlook touching that area of education and getting through to the school kids, that are the people that are they're ultimately going to become your customer, and they're going to become the people that build your business for you as employees, and they're the people that are going to come up with businesses that create new ideas that can sell to you to speed up processes in your business. And I think it's very focused on the C-suite rather than focused on the companies that can do it, and they can focus on the younger area. Look at AWS. AWS largely, and I think this is correct, so if I'm wrong on this, I'm sure it's correct, that they were looking at it from how to help companies best. So what they did was they targeted the AWS infrastructure and the software and the programming and the certifications you needed. They targeted the high areas, and UiPath have done very similar, where they target places like Asia and India, and where there are very good developers out there, to put them on their program. So it's the only program they know how to use. So when a company goes to hire them and they say, well, what you most knowledgeable on? Are you most knowledgeable on UiPath? Are you most knowledgeable on automation anywhere? RoboCorp, or all these different areas, similar to what AWS did. Obviously, they had the money to go encourage all of them to go use that platform. And that ultimately led to a lot of companies deciding to use AWS, because that's where the engineers and where the people and the DevOps and the infrastructure people knew how to use that platform more than any other platform. So it kind of influenced a lot of businesses' decisions to think we'll go with AWS. And it's the exact same in schools. I mean, I've digressed from the point, but it really is that kind of thinking when a company looks at it. If you can get in at the ground level, I mean, look at Microsoft. We know Microsoft so well because a school computer, it's not likely they're using Macs. It's very likely they're using Windows computers, whether it's a Dell or whatever it is, Lenovo or whatever. And they're using all the infrastructure and all the platforms from Microsoft, whether it's Word, Excel, whatever it might be, PowerPoint. I mean, I used PowerPoint when I was at school. When I was in my early days, I was like 10 or something doing a presentation, or 12, and I was up there doing a presentation around whatever it would be about my favorite film or whatever, and how that related to English. I don't know. But using all those kind of areas to really inform them and educate them. And that's why I think things like VR, more than, very complicated software or software that's a bit more too complicated for the 14-year-old. And that's why I always think if I can explain this to a 5-year-old, that's great. And that's what we try to do. And that's what we try to educate, because that is who we want to reach ultimately. And I mean, that's how I encourage companies to try and reach those areas and reach those audiences, because those are the ones that will truly help your business and truly take it forward. And that's where I kind of see it going with education. You can tell it's a passionate point for me. I just wish every school brought in VR headsets and put every school kid in an immersive experience, because they'll learn a lot quicker. I mean, anything now, if I need to learn when the Battle of Hastings was, or I need to understand about a religion, I can just Google it and I can get everything there. I can do my own research. I can make my own judgment. I don't need a school teacher to come and tell me. And it's not just an arrogant point of view for me. I wish I got taught around taxes. I wish I got taught around how to invest your money. I wish I got taught around things that they don't teach you. And I think all those areas are much more important. I'm not saying, obviously that's an opinion, but there's a lot of things that they teach at schools is readily available on YouTube, on Google, on things. I mean, I'm a living proof. I was awful at school and now I'm running quite a successful business because I had that intuitive. And that's what really annoyed me. If I went back to school now and they were teaching me about religious studies or maths or English or physics, I'm obsessed with physics. I did awful in physics. I would love it because I've had those experiences of understanding how it connects to astrology or the laws of dynamics. So if I drop something, it drops. And I think that is I'm not going off point, but it's such an important point to use these technologies to inform people in a much better way so they can learn more, not just have a syllabus that I mean, look at this. A class that I knew that I was at school, I think classes run for 35 minutes. How the hell is anyone supposed to learn something in 35 minutes? Like, by the time you opened your books and you moved, it's ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if I take half an hour calls and I still haven't learned anything, like, or anywhere near enough that I want to know around a potential customer or a writer or a prospect. It takes loads of development and loads of meetings and loads of calls to understand them and to really be able to help them. And then, I mean, it's just, when you turn it to school kids, they think, 35 minutes to learn about maths and to learn about algebra. Job done, tick, see you next week. It doesn't work. It's a faulted system. There's a topic for another day. I mean, that's my opinion. But technologies can help us get there, like VR and like teaching them how to use software. We'll get them there a lot quicker than the current syllabus of writing on a whiteboard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have a son of 8 years old that gets bored really quick with the classic standard kind of lessons, school lessons.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's much more interested when he can have the experience, as you said, when you explained about the traveling experience and the school experience is the same as you said, because if you can try and learn by mistakes, you can learn much better because you can really understand what's not going on, what's wrong in the process, and understand and make your efforts to understand how to reach the results. Other things is if you have to look at the blackboard or even digital one and just absorb what is proposed for learning on the list of the day. So
Yeah.
it's a completely, maybe the challenge could be in the school of tomorrow, in the educational aspect of tomorrow, is engaging and selecting the right way or the right contents to share with the students, more than the contents themselves, because as you said, the contents is everywhere now, in video, music, podcasts, text, augmented reality, what else. The challenge is take the right one, selecting and avoiding fakes or something that is wrong to teach.
And who knows what technology will have available to us? I mean, VR's a gateway to a whole new sector, a whole new scene. I mean, they say the metaverse is going to be 10 times the size in terms of market spend or market valuation, or whatever you want to call it, compared to advertising or TV at the moment, or streaming. They say it's going to be, I completely agree, or the internet, that was it. I think it was the internet that they said. The metaverse can be about 10 times the size of that, because the amount of opportunities it unlocks, because it's much more personal compared to things. You can create your own experiences. You can share those experiences. It's quite hard in the internet at the moment, obviously within reason. VR unlocks all those situations to be able to build your own experiences. And that's why I don't like predictions, but I can see that one becoming very true, if not 20 times the size of the internet, because it's an area where you can learn a lot quicker and it makes it much more accessible. And I think the people, when taking it back to education, people will be able to learn in their own time. So I honestly reckon where the people that want to excel, they'll be able to learn things a lot quicker by going home and not playing video games. And even playing video games, I mean, it really annoys me that certain people say, oh, well, if you develop, if you're a gamer, if you play video games, you're not going to be successful. What a load of rubbish. You look at, but Rockstar sold 10 times the amount or something than any best-selling film in history through their Red Dead Redemption release. And you look at people like Ninja, and he games for 12 hours a day or whatever it is. And I know this isn't related, but it is to that learning point. Why do we put calluses, and why do we put areas, and why do we put lockholds on ourselves to think, oh, if you're in that industry, it's not going to be a success? And it's the same with technology. If you're using that technology, it's not going to be a success. I just think it's a very flawed argument, and it's a very flawed area. And I really take it back to that point of we really are in our infancy. I mean, what AI got, first AI got created in by Turing, I think, in 1952 or whatever it was. That was only 70 years ago, however long it is. Yeah, 70 odd years ago. The world's been around for millions of years. we're in the infancy, and here people are saying, oh, we know what's going to happen next year. I'm an expert in this. I'm this. I just think it's flawed. And I think we can't have that mindset. If we imagine if we didn't have that mindset and we're just curious, back to your great word earlier, Esther. And I think that's where companies that really excel, that's what they do best. And anyone to the audience, that's where you'll do best as well. To stop having this mindset of right or wrong, and to really understand it from an area of why is that? Being curious.
Yes. So the best things that we can do is providing our contribution to that. Let's people educate people and spread the words. And I really want to thank you once again, Tom, today for your participation in our small piece of this education pattern. To let people understand a little bit better about technology, a little bit better about artificial intelligence. Thanks once again.
Really appreciate it, Esther. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I want to thank you also everyone that is watching us today or is going to watch the recordings in the next days. Don't be shy. Comment in the post or ask to Tom to participate in the AI journal. And his team is really willing to let the education circulate and make the things going really fast to the people and to the audience. Thanks once again, Tom, and see you next time.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you soon.